So today we're very honored to have Linda, who I had the great honor of meeting through Pinky, her dear friend here in Phoenix in December, I think it was last year, December 2019. And while we were schmoozing, it was an upsharnish, a 3-year-old birthday party for my nephew. She started showing me all of her pictures of the fascinating, I call it designs, because it truly is a lot of artistic design involved in the cake design. And I thought this would be something that's really fascinating for all of us to learn more about. But in addition, when you meet Linda, you learn all of the history of her own personal history. So instead of me sharing a little bio, which is going to tell everyone about her, I know that Linda's going to share a little bit about herself and where she was born and the history of that, of her family. And then she'll share about her cake designs and the fascinating art that she has done through the cake design. So I'm going to share the floor with Linda. And then again, if you do have questions, easiest way is through the chat and I'll make sure to ask them. But if you are unfamiliar with the chat box, definitely unmute, ask the question in a good spot. And we hope everyone will enjoy learning about Linda and the art of the cake.
Okay, Rabbi, first of all, I need to share the screen, do I not?
Yes.
Okay, so before I do that, everybody, thank you so much for coming, and special thanks to Pinky and Rabbi for asking me to do this and to participate in this great program. So let's just do this quickly. I need a full screen. How do I do full screen?
Don't worry, take your time.
This is not what I want to do the full screen. So
well, first do the share screen and then you'll go full screen. So first share it in Zoom.
oh no, I've messed it up. Sorry.
No worries. I'm gonna do music on hold. Well, I'm just joking.
Hi, Linda. It's Sharon.
Sharon, I'm stuck again.
It's present. You want present
you.
from the beginning.
Okay.
And remember, we practiced. And if you go to share, if you share the screen first, it won't work. Present is over there next to share.
On top right near the yellow button.
Or you can do view from the beginning.
Sharon, thank you for all your help with this. Linda did tell me about this.
Okay, I'm seeing a full screen. Are you not seeing it?
Yeah, we are.
Seeing a full screen.
Well, okay, Linda, one more button. On the top right, a little bit lower than the corner, you have that yellow share. To the left of it, you have present.
I just hit present.
Yeah.
And it pulls down, and you say from the beginning.
Oh, no.
Don't worry, you're good.
It's okay.
Okay, I'm starting again.
Bear with us, everyone. This is just fun tech.
We tried this yesterday and it worked, and now I'm messing.
No, you had it actually. You had it really well just now. So share your screen again. Select your Firefox.
But we weren't seeing it full screen.
No, I did it. I did it with her yesterday.
Okay.
Don't worry.
Okay, I'm doing that. So I need to go to.
In Zoom, you'll hit share screen with the green button on the bottom.
Okay.
Select Firefox, the one that you have your PowerPoint slides.
Okay.
Google slide. Click OK. All right. And now on the right side where it says present, click on the present. Hold on one second.
On this one, I want to go back. Okay.
Click on the arrow of present.
There we go.
Yeah, you don't have to stop sharing. Just go to that same screen, right side, where it says present on the top.
No, I've lost it again. Can I not just start?
If you want, hold on.
Can everybody see it? I'm sorry. I just thought I had this right.
Mom, click on the arrow next to present.
Lovey, I'm seeing a full screen of the slide. I don't see a present. Here we go. All right, let's try. The arrow?
The arrow. No,
on
the
the
other one.
Right of that. There you go. Perfect.
Okay, got it.
All right, if we... Hold on. All right, Linda, try one more time, right next to present, that arrow. This is, and then if not, we'll just use it the way you're doing it. And try the first option, present or view. Let's see how that looks first. No, it's not letting me pop up. All right, let's do it this way, and then we'll see the screen anyways. We see it.
Okay.
So yeah, perfect.
So do you see it full screen?
Yeah, it's just not the full screen, but we see the full slide, so you're good.
Okay. Well, again, thank you to Pinky and to Rabbi for inviting me, and also a huge thanks to Michael for who helped me so much and created this PowerPoint presentation that I hope you're all going to enjoy. And I don't know if you can see, but there's a number at the bottom of each slide. Can you see that? And so if you have any questions at the end, and you can refer to the numbers. So everybody has a story, and this one is mine. I consider myself very lucky to have been born and raised in the former British colony of Rhodesia. We had amazing weather and a country rich in resources, and it was known as the breadbasket of Africa. I had an idyllic childhood. We had a very close-knit Jewish community, numbering about 7,500 in the 60s and 70s. Our education was outstanding. It was very strict and disciplined, and those disciplines have served me very well through to today. Our lives were filled with activities of every kind, and we had a healthy, wholesome outdoor life. We holidayed in South Africa and Mozambique as Rhodesia was landlocked, and it was just a paradise. After political upheaval in the 70s, the country gained independence from Britain, and in 1980 became Zimbabwe. So this is the city of Harare, the capital city, which was Salisbury when I was born. And the country, when it got independence in 1980, was named for the great Zimbabwe ruins. Can you see this pointer? Everybody?
Yeah, we do. We do see it.
So these are the ruins that are in the south of the country. They were started in about the 11th century, and there's much speculation to this day about who built them and how they did it. But it is one of our top tourist attractions. Moving over, this is the most beautiful tourist attraction we have in the country. These are the fantastic Victoria Falls, which lie on the northern border on the Zambezi River. And this is Zimbabwe on the left and Zambia on the right. And the bridge is actually the border between the two. And I put this photograph in because our city used to be carpeted in purple every September with these gorgeous jacaranda trees. And that's a very, very, I have a soft spot for those. And I planted 2 jacaranda trees at my house here in California. And this photograph is the synagogue that I went to. We had 2 synagogues in Salisbury. We had an Ashkenazi, and this was a Sephardi one. And the Sephardi shul was built in 1958, and the congregation was started by the relatives and descendants of the Jewish community from the island of Rhodes in the Mediterranean. And that community was all but wiped out by the Nazis in 1944. We attended weekly. My dad was instrumental in starting the choir there, and my husband and I got married there. And the sad story of our community in Zimbabwe is that as of today, only about 100 Jews remain in the country, and those that remain are aging, and there are no longer weddings or bar mitzvahs. A rabbi comes up from South Africa when needed, and there is a Jewish school there, and I think I was told that there aren't any more Jewish students there. So it's really very sad, but it was a fantastic, fantastic country to grow up in. So, okay. This is my family, my mom's parents.
Linda, I'm gonna jump in. Click on the left, you see where it says 3 to get to the next slide. On the left side, you have like images.
Mm-hmm.
Just click on the number. And on the left side, you have like thumbnails.
I don't have thumbnails.
More left. Up. Those are thumbnails. So meaning we don't see your third slide, we just see your.
Okay. All right. So my mom's family came from Russia. Her mother's family came from Latvia in the late 1800s, and her dad came a little later from Lithuania.
Mom, you have to click next.
What?
Click next. Next slide. Right arrow key.
Why? My thing is showing what I'm talking about.
We don't see it.
But I realize what it is. Okay, hold on. I think you're sharing a different screen than what you're seeing on your screen itself.
How is that possible?
Just
Because
hit
it
the.
probably is full screen by you.
You can also use.
Are you able to alternate between your tabs of different open programs? Like, can you get back to Zoom without stopping while you stop your share on the top of your screen? Stop the share.
Oh no, just do.
I'm sorry, everybody.
Okay, now share your screen in Zoom. Share your screen in Zoom, and one of the options for sharing is going to be your full screen that you saw earlier.
Not.
There you go. Now we see it full screen. Perfect.
Okay.
You might want to move the tab. There you go. Perfect. Now we see it full screen. Great.
All right. So my mom's parents came from Russia, and my mom was born in South Africa. There was a huge immigration of Russians after the pogroms in the late 1800s. So a lot of the Jewish community in South Africa were of Russian descent. This is my dad's side of the family. They came from Libya and Turkey originally and ended up in Egypt. And my father was actually born in London because his father was in the ostrich feather business. And he used to travel a lot for business. He used to follow the fashion. So his sister was born in Paris. He was born in London. And then when he was 3 months old, they ended up in Alexandria in Egypt. And this is my mom and dad's wedding. This is the second wedding for both of them. My mom's first husband was killed during the war fighting in Burma. And my dad's first wife divorced him during the war. So they met and got together after the war. So mom and dad both signed up for the British Army. Dad spent his time, he spoke several languages, and the intelligence people wanted him, but the motor mechanics division won out because he worked with motors and cars and motor spares. And he spent most of the war in Egypt and in Italy, finally. And mom was sent up in a convoy from Rhodesia to Nairobi, and she became a captain and spent the 6 years of the war in and around Nairobi. These are my parents later on in 1976. And this photo I put in because it was the last picture that was taken of me with my parents in Cape Town just before my dad died. So this is my path. This is the path I took. This is a map of Zimbabwe, and this is where it's located in Africa. I started my life there after school. I went down to South Africa for 3 years to Durban, to art school, and I studied graphic design. And my dad had always encouraged us to travel. So the minute I graduated, I made plans to go overseas, and I bought a one-way ticket to London, where I lived for 2 years and traveled back and forth to Europe. And then after 2 years, the weather and my dad decided that I should go to New York. So went to New York and Washington, where we had family. And this is in the year of Watergate. I lived in Washington, D.C. during the year of Watergate. And frankly, it was like living in a movie. So I'd had enough of that, and I decided to go home for a while. And once back at home, I learned that my dear cousin Ronnie was getting married in Israel. So perfect excuse, went off to Israel, and this was in 1975. Following the wedding, somebody convinced me to go to a kibbutz Ormonde to learn Hebrew. And that is where I met my late husband on the first day. So we spent 3 years in Israel, and then we decided to come to California, and we have been here for 42 years. And this is my family, my brother and I as children, and recently, about 3 years ago. This is my late husband, Reuben, and this is the last picture I took of him in '94. And very sadly, he passed away from cancer in 1995. He was born in Israel. He came to America, to New Jersey, when he was about 7, and returned to Israel at age 21. And at that point, he had to go back to the army. So he went to Kibbutz Magan Michael to refresh his Hebrew. And he went into the army, and 3 weeks before he was due to come out, the Yom Kippur War broke out. And he was in the tank division that was in the spearhead of the tanks that took the Golan Heights. And he returned to the kibbutz after the war, and that is where I met him. And we came here in 1978, and these are my 2 wonderful sons who were born here. David and Michael both now live in New York. David is an attorney, and he works for the University of Columbia. And Michael is an art director, set designer, and he is waiting for the entertainment industry to open up again so he can start working. But I haven't seen them for almost a year. It's been a long time, thanks to COVID. So this is how the whole thing started. When the kids were little, I made the birthday cakes. And I had no intentions of ever having a career in cakes, but basically this is what happened. I started doing their cakes, and then friends asked me to do their kids' cakes, and eventually it snowballed. And this was David's bar mitzvah cake that I did in 1992. I've put this slide in because this is the first tiered cake that I ever did, and really and truly, I kind of cringe when I look at this cake because it was, I'd never done one, and it's everything I didn't like about cakes. But eventually, my work turned out like this. This was the name of my shop, and this was my logo, and this was the cake that I used for my advertising. So this is basically a career that found me. And how that happened was in 1988, a co-worker of my husband invited us to her wedding and asked me to do the cake. And I said to her, "Don't be ridiculous, I don't do wedding cakes." Anyway, she talked me into it. And I went and watched a demo in a cake store as how you should put a wedding cake together. And I delivered the cake that night wearing a sparkly evening dress and high heels, and I was completely green and ignorant about the workings of cakes and how you set them up. Anyway, the wedding happened to be at the Ritz-Carlton, and that night the catering director asked me for a card, which I did not have. And the following morning, Monday, I went and printed some cards and sent them to the hotel. And 2 weeks later, I got my first phone call, and it just worked out that I was in the right place at the right time. And in December of 1990, I happened to be in the cake store where I bought my supplies, and the lady who owned the store said to me, "Linda, we're doing a cake display window for Tiffany's, and we're running out of time, and can you help?" So this is the window that I made for displays at Tiffany. This was all made out of sugar. And she did all the other windows, but this is the one that I did. And this led to a phone call a month later when the designer at Tiffany's called me and asked me if I would do his Valentine windows. So I made these dummy cakes. They had to be dummies because they were made with styrofoam, because they were sitting in these windows for 2 weeks under hot lights. And it was very beautiful, and they had a piece of jewelry either on the cake or next to it. I think if you look at this cake here, you can see there's a piece of jewelry down here. And you can actually see the reflection in the window of the street behind. So I did Tiffany windows here in Costa Mesa, and then the following year I did the Tiffany windows down in San Diego. So they were all different style cakes, and the amazing thing is that they wouldn't allow me to take the jewelry home when I took the cakes out of the windows. And I did countless magazine shoots and photographs for wedding issues. They were dummy cakes, just like the Tiffany cakes, and the magazines would call me and tell me what color palette and theme that they were photographing, and this was a tremendous source of free advertising for me. For instance, this one, they wanted me to do a crocodile theme to match the fabric that was on the cake stand. And this one was, the theme on this one was the henna from, you know, the Indian brides would put henna on their hands. So we did a henna cake. And this was an actual cake that I did for a cake at a winery here in California. And so we picked up the theme of the winery, and I made all the grapes and the flowers and the grape leaves and the vines out of sugar paste. And this part of the slide didn't load. Why not? Okay, I'll try the next one. Rabbi, what's happening? Hello?
I would, it seems like just go back a slide or hit reload. It looks like your computer internet. There you go.
No, where is?
See if you could do the next slide.
I did. Okay, well, we've lost 2 slides. I'm sorry, everybody, but it worked yesterday. Oh.
Linda, go back a second, see if did it give you an option to show it anyways?
No.
In the center of the screen.
You see it says show anyway? There you go. So it's missing some of the images. Or you could try reload, which was the other part.
Where is reload?
On the top, maybe. Does it show? Right there, you see it says.
Okay, that's the one we were on.
You go next. You see where it says reload next to show anyway?
No.
Did you put? No? We can.
Okay, well, I'll just carry on then. I'm sorry, I don't know why this is happening. Does anybody?
I mean, we can come back to it. Well, after you do the presentation, we can come back to those 2 slides through your other browser.
Okay, so why did I put these? Oh, these cakes are all kind of this story with every single. Pardon?
You just showed 11 and 12.
It didn't show up the whole slide. Only one or 2 pictures came out.
Oh.
No. Okay, so this cake was done. I don't know how well you can see these, but the designs here, the lace design was all taken off the bride's dress, and she wanted this cake floated on lots of flowers. And this cake is probably the most expensive cake I've ever done. It took about 3 weeks to make all of those flowers out of sugar paste. And we had to take that cake up to Santa Barbara. And Mark, I believe you were with me when I took it up there. This cake is a French wedding cake called a croquembouche. And this is one of my near disasters. I must say, I have to say, I was very grateful that I never actually lost a cake in 25 years. But this one was a very, very close disaster. I had designed this cake to fit the inside of my van because I knew I had to do it in one piece. And normally I only delivered cakes all separated. Then I constructed them at the wedding. But this croquembouche fit between the roof and bottom of my car. And as I got onto the freeway, a guy cut me off and I had to slam on my brakes and the whole croquembouche went over. I heard it hit the back of my back seat and I, cool as a cucumber, carried on to the wedding. And when I got there, I pulled it out and I had a box of extra profiteroles with me. And I actually fixed it and put the pristine side to the front. But there was a story with every wedding and you could never anticipate what was going to happen at a wedding. This one was done for a Thai pop princess and a racing driver. And I had started working with fondant to make it look like fabric. So this was one of the cakes that I did using that technique. And I ended up doing many, many fabric drape cakes. This one over here was, I always had a fit about putting cakes outside in summer, in August, in the heat, because the cakes would be set up a good 4 hours before they were eaten. And I always was scared about the weather and insisted on them being covered. But there were a few weddings where I had cakes in the full sun and they scared me to death. And my husband always used to say to me, do a cake with butterflies. So eventually somebody asked me to do that. And this cake was, I had to think about 60 butterflies on here, all made out of sugar paste. So this one it was actually on a TV program. And this one was done for a bridal wedding convention up in LA. And this was a copy of an Armani dress that I had seen and fell in love with. And I thought, I have to make that one into a cake. So that's that one. And I put these cakes in because it always amazed me at how much people were willing to pay to impress people at weddings. So these three cakes, these three tall cakes were all for the same family. They were a family from, I think they were from Iraq, or somewhere in the Middle East. Anyway, they wanted big cakes and they said to me, impress, impress, impress. So when they told me how tall the cakes were going to be, I said to them, there is no way that these plastic pillars that we have will keep the cakes standing. So they built me the stainless steel. They had a manufacturing plant and they built me the stainless steel. You can see on this cake, you can see part of it. The stand that was, I think was about 8 feet high. When I put this cake together, I stood on the table down here and my head came up to these flowers. So it was huge. And it was all real cake and they just didn't mind that there was masses over. And there's a story about this cake, which I will tell you later on. This was a wedding, a destination wedding. People came from the East Coast to California and they wanted individual cakes for everybody at the wedding. And there were 150 of them and I never showed anyone this picture because I never wanted to do it again. But again, I charged about, I think it was $50 for each one of these little cakes. And they were 2.5-inch cakes. They weren't much bigger than a cupcake. But that's what they wanted. So this wedding here was in Beverly Hills and this was a $2 million wedding. I didn't relate to most of my clients, but anyway, they only needed 4 tiers, but they paid huge sums of money just to have extra tiers to make it look bigger and grander. And this picture I just love because I took this photo from the back of the cake because sometimes the background behind the cake was nicer than what was in front. And these are celebrity cakes. I was contacted by a wedding coordinator who was from South Africa and he became the guru of wedding cake people here in America. And my first cake with him was Sugar Ray Leonard, his wedding. And this was, again, an outside cake in August. It was on a tennis court, and I insisted that they bring an umbrella and put it in front because I just knew that cake was going to melt. It didn't, but I thought it would. And this lovely cake was for a gentleman who's in a heavy metal band. And he did not choose this cake, his wife did. And he spent the whole consultation just looking at his phone and didn't want to be there at all. That was kind of funny. This wedding I did 3 days after a wedding that I went to in London in '99, Bell and Lee, you would know that. And I was so jet lagged. I only left myself 3 days to do this. And I was so jet lagged when I did this cake. It is nothing short of a miracle that I got it on the table. Again, this is another nightmare story with heat. When I arrived in the valley with this cake for Kelsey Grammer, my thermometer on my car was 114 degrees. And there was no way that I could put that cake outside. And I told the coordinator, I'm not doing it. So they allowed me to go into the ranch house where I set it up. And at the very last minute before the guests came into, because the tent was outside and it was a clear tent and it was like a greenhouse. So sometimes I just had to put my foot down and not listen to anybody and worry about their timelines because this cake would not have lasted. Anyway, at the very last minute, we put it in the front of the tent, and that was Kelsey Grammer's second wedding, I think. This one was Don Henley's cake, Don Henley from the Eagles, and he insisted on having his grandmother's Italian cream cake recipe. And I had to do a test cake for him, and it was a childhood memory that he had. And I knew this cake was so sweet, and he asked me to moderate the sweetness on it, but he also knew that I hadn't used fresh pecans on this cake. And he said to me, I will ship you fresh pecans from Texas on the day that you bake the cakes. And that's what he did. So, everybody has their own thing, their own quirk. This was one of my favorite. It was, this was done before when I was still working from home. This was Blair Underwood, and he asked me if I could do an Eiffel Tower cake. And I said, oh, sure. And without even thinking about how I was going to do this cake, I just said, yes, I can do it. Anyway, a week before, I hadn't even thought about how I was going to do it until about a week before. And then I didn't have time to think about it anymore. So I finally did it. And I don't know if you can see, but in the center there, I made a couple, he and his bride, wearing what they were wearing at the wedding out of sugar paste. And I had lights going all the way up the tower, and when the sun went down, it looked magical. It looked magical because this was on a hill and there was a city behind it. It was just beautiful. And he was engaged at the Eiffel Tower, and he actually went on that Finding Your Roots program. And he actually said that he found out that his ancestors were from Paris. So that was his connection. And this one was Dr. Phil's son's cake, Jay McGraw. It was my rose cake. And again, I took the view from the back because I liked what was going on behind it. And these are Pinky's cakes. Pinky's my very dear friend who I met when my husband was ill. She was the Bikur Cholim for the shul. And she called me on and off for many months. And I actually was so overwhelmed with taking care of Reuben and the kids that I didn't return her calls. So one day we were at the shul and I heard someone say, Pinky was in the kitchen. And so I went to introduce myself, and she simply opened her arms and took me in. And she became one of my angels during his long illness. And she and Izzy are dear, dear friends. And they basically adopted us after he passed away. And their long-lasting friendship has been a gift that I'll always treasure. And our loss in California has been your gain in Arizona, that is for sure. So anyway, these are the cakes I made for her 50th 60th, and 70th. And they were all surprises. And this was her reaction when I did her cake last year of her sewing machine. And I also did her son, Brian and Michelle's wedding. And that was in Arizona. And yeah, it was in Phoenix. It was the longest cake delivery I'd ever done. And these are just fun cakes that I've done over the years. Each one has a story. This was for a veterinarian who was graduating and who was crazy about peacocks. This one was a bridal shower cake for a bride who loved cooking. So I made all these kitchen utensils out of sugar paste. And in fact, while I was doing the cake, this knife was lying on my kitchen counter at the shop, and I actually picked it up thinking it was a knife because I wanted to cut something. This is a Fabergé egg that I did for one of the guys who owns one of the malls here in California as a thank you gift. This was a copy of a copy of a handbag that was given to my friend as a gift for her birthday. So I made a copy of the bag and a Halloween cake. And at this event, some bright spark came up and picked up this cake and walked away with it. Just took it. I mean, people do really weird things. And these are my little mice. I make these little chocolate mice every single year, usually at Christmas. I've made them with blue and white kippot on their head for Hanukkah as well. I've never sold these. These were just for fun, and I make them for my neighbors, friends and neighbors as Christmas. And they're made out of cherries dipped in chocolate with almond ears, and they're a lot of fun. They're very sweet. And Groom's cakes. Groom's cakes have always been a tremendous amount of fun. And what they started in the south of the country, where everybody wanted to basically recognize the groom, because weddings are usually all about the bride. And the groom's cakes are comical, whimsical. They're always something to do with the groom's profession or something that people know about him. And so I have done really weird things. So this is just a sampling of some of them. This one was the groom's university mascot, a purple horned frog. This one, the lady was a gourmet chef, and I asked her if her husband loved her cooking, and she looked at me and she said, oh, she's a steak and potatoes guy. So that's where the steak and potato came about. This was a chocolate cake, this was a white cake. And these two, the suitcase and New York, these are two brothers-in-law. I did both weddings. This one was trying to get his 1,000,000-mile frequent flyer on each card on each airline that he went with. So we had about 4 or 5 different airlines. And so that's why I did the suitcase with the cards. And his brother-in-law is from New York and loved everything about New York. And he wanted a day and night version of New York. So the night version, if you can see, and he's a great comic fan. So if you can see the night version, we have all the Spider-Man on top of the building and all these comic icons here. And then I spent a week making all these buildings in New York. I've got the Empire State Building, the Chrysler Building, the Flatiron Building. I've got the Freedom Tower, I think, on the other side. Anyway, it took a week to make this cake. It was really labor intensive. Over the years, I have done every single kind of sports ball that you can possibly imagine. I've done more golf balls than I can even think to remember. But anyway, I used to make these, and all these little dimples. I remember Izzy once asking me how many dimples I put in his golf ball cake. Anyway, I did many of those. This was for a cowboy from Texas who got married in Palm Springs. And I went to my neighbor next door who was from Texas, and I said, I need a pair of boots to copy. And that's what came out. And then this casino cake was done, this is all fondant. And here I have to say that my graphic art background really helped me tremendously, because throughout all of these years, I was basically self-taught. I would look at something and say, okay, how can I make that? But the graphic art background really helped me with this, because this is all hand painted. And, you know, the use of color and my eyeball, you know, the way I used to eyeball stuff is all from that background. And a few more. This is a pair of size 13 sneakers. This was a Hermès gift box. And again, this was all hand painted. And you know, the difference nowadays is most people doing this kind of work can just go online and buy a stencil. Whereas there weren't any stencils when I started. So again, the graphic art helped me so much. This guy came to me and gave me his baseball cap from his university, and he said, everybody knows that since I bought this hat, I have never washed it. So when you do the cake, I want all the dirt and sweat on it, please. So it was kind of gross, but there we go. And this little cake was delivered to the island of Catalina off the coast. So this one was delivered by hovercraft, but I did not deliver it because I was not going to go. I sent somebody else to do it. This was for a film director who wanted film canisters, and his name and the name of the movie that he did and all that stuff is written on top of on the label. And lastly, this little guy it was a couple from New York, and they came out here and said that where they had met was at I think the Bronx Zoo in New York. And where they met, there was a seal sitting on a rock. So that's what they wanted. And here we go again. So this is my inspiration page. Where did I get my ideas from? Lots of magazines. This one, there was a picture there, but it has disappeared. It was of a butterfly. Sorry about that. This was, all these designs were on the bride's invitation. And so she gave me the invitation, and I just copied all of these. There are about 5 different colors of curlicues there. And this is a Vera Wang gown. I believe this is the dress that Chelsea Clinton wore to her wedding. Anyway, I just would look at a picture and say, okay, I can do that. And that's what came out. This is one of my favorites. I showed you a picture of this earlier on. This was the Armani dress that I saw in the magazine. And I thought, oh, I have to do a cake just like that. And I tried to do this rose in fondant, but because it's a soft medium and it stretches, I could not get that rose to be like that. This one was an Oscar de la Renta, I believe, with the ruffles, the horizontal ruffles. And this one, I don't know who this designer is, but I just loved this dress, so I had to make a cake to match. And setups and how we got weddings going and how we did things was, first of all, I would make the cakes. I would have them separated like this in my fridge at the shop. And it went from being in my fridge to a setup. This is the setup, final setup in the wedding, at the wedding. And I spent many hours up on ladders because, you know, as you get to the higher tiers in the cake, they get further away from you. So it was really interesting. I mean, you just did it. This is how I used to deliver. I used to put all the cakes in the car. I had 6-inch sponges on the bottom of the car and a blanket, and then non-skid material underneath. So those cakes were not going anywhere. And other than the crock and bush story that I told you, I'm happy to say I've never lost a wedding in 25 years. I mean, a cake. I was just really very adamant about how I was going to do it. And there is a story about this one as well. This is one of those big cakes. We had thousands of flowers all over this cake, and we had them in boxes. And once the cake was set up, I packed up everything on my cart, and we were going outside back to my van, which was in the parking lot. And the bride decided to arrive by helicopter. And as the helicopter came down, it just whipped up all the boxes and all the sugar flowers and sprayed them all over the parking lot. It was, all of them broke. And all I could say is I was so grateful and thankful that this happened at the end of the wedding when we were done, not on the way in, because that would have been a huge disaster. And I put this cake in because this cake actually stopped me from having chemo. The story is that I had had my surgery and the oncologist was all ready to string me up and give me chemo. And I said, absolutely not, non-negotiable. I am not doing chemo because I have a wedding to do in 6 weeks' time. And I can't be sick. I cannot be sick when I'm doing a cake. So I did the cake. 6 weeks later, I went back to the oncologist and he gave me a test, and the results came out saying that I didn't need chemo and I wouldn't benefit from it. So that's the little story behind that one. And this was my last wedding cake, which I did 3 years ago. This is my son Michael and Tully's wedding that was in New York. And I just, this is part of the production where I started. So the wedding was in New York and I made all the flowers here in California on my dining room table. This was part of the production where I made the roses and I put them in racks to dry. And this is what they looked like while they were drying. And then made, I think it was about 300 or more various size petals. And I nearly drove Michael up the wall because I was stressing about how was I going to get these flowers to New York without breaking them. So we did a test run. We sent some in a Pringles box. Each one was wrapped in bubble plastic and they broke. Then I mailed another one to my cousin Ellie in New York in a box through the post, and that broke. So I made extras just for breakage purposes, but ended up putting them all in my hand luggage for the wedding. And I wouldn't let anyone at the airport come near me. And we got there and everything was fine. We did it all and we didn't have much breakage. And I was very lucky. I found an Airbnb 7 minutes away from where the wedding was. And I was so lucky. I made the cake there and we put it together. And these are pictures of the setup. And here I am just fixing some of those sugar paste roses that are very brittle. They break so easily, putting this on the back of the cake. And this is the ketubah that I painted for Michael and Tully's wedding. I had never done one before, but both our families have very deep ties with Israel, so that was the theme of it. And they have it hanging in their apartment now, and it's
you can see it in our picture.
Oh! Are you sitting in front of it? Yay!
Yeah.
Cool. After the wedding, before the wedding, I have a friend here who was playing with silver clay, and she said to me one day, "Would you like to play?" And I said, "Yes, I do. I want to do this," because I knew Michael and Tully were getting married, and I thought I could. She was making mezuzot for a Hanukkah boutique, so I thought, well, I can do that. So I sat down and played with her, and this is the first thing that I ever made in silver, which is the mezuzah that I gave to Michael and Tully for their wedding. And then I used to wear a khamsa that got chewed up in a shredder. So I made a copy of it for my son David, and he now has that on his wall. It's a big one. It's in a frame on the wall. And I started doing jewelry with her and mezuzot in silver. And then we did some in clay as well. Anyway, that's just a sample of some of the things that I've done since I stopped doing cakes, which I don't miss at all. And then finally, my friend who I was doing the silver with one night said to me in 2017, she said to me, I'm going to a cheese and wine thing at an art place. Would you like to come with me? And I said, absolutely. So I went off with her, and next thing, the lady said, well, there are the paints and canvases, so go paint. And I looked at her and I said, well, what are we doing? Anyway, that was the first time I started painting, and these are some of my paintings that have come out since I started painting in 2017. I just got ideas from all over the place. Anyway, those are my paintings. And last but not least, when I was growing up at home, my mother was very involved in the theater, and my dad was too, our whole family was. And she was the wardrobe mistress for the local theater, and she did shows, and she did the costumes for the shows, pantomimes, whatever. And our family was very involved in the theater. So when I went to art school and came home on vacation, I would paint sets at the local theater. When I came to California and the kids were in school, I started painting scenery for their school plays. And I realized that there weren't very many moms who could do that. And that's when I met Sharon, my wonderful friend, who is a fantastic art teacher. And I did scenery for all of their shows, and her kids and mine were also in children's theater, and I used to paint scenery for that. So about 7, 8 years ago, can't remember, she was teaching at a school and said she was putting on a production of Willy Wonka, and would I like to do the scenery? And so I have done about 7 productions with her, and these are some of them. The interesting thing about Aladdin is that I did this for Sharon's daughter's class in 1992, but this one that you're looking at and this set are now in the school that Sharon used to work at. And I did that in January of this year, and January, February. And we hung this in the theater at the school on I think it was the 9th of March. And the school was closed down due to COVID on the 13th. So this is one show that did not go on. So I think it's still hanging there, I'm not sure. This was Grandma's Cottage that I did for Into the Woods. And this was the most fun. I did this in my garage at home. This was Susical the Musical. And I had so much fun with that one. And last year we did The Little Mermaid. This is The Prince's Boat. And this was Willy Wonka, the very first one I did with her. So that's it, folks. That's what I've been doing with myself for the last 40 years. So thank you very much for listening. I'm sorry there were glitches, but thank you.
Linda, thank you so much. I know that people will have questions, but if you wanted to go back to your slide 11 and 12 without doing a full screen, but like when you had it with the before,
okay, wait,
you might. And if anyone has questions, if right after those 2 slides, I have a question that someone messaged me privately.
Yeah.
They wanted to know if you've ever done repeat customers, people who got divorced and came back for the second wedding.
Yes. Oh, yes. There was one lady. Oh, my God. By the 3rd time, I said to her, no. I had one lady who wanted the same cake for every wedding. She was an older lady, and she kept finding rich old men to marry. I'm not kidding you. And I did the first one, and fine. That was at the Ritz-Carlton. And then I did another one. And then the 3rd one was going to be in San Diego. And when she called me the 3rd time, I said, no, I'm not doing it. Refuse. Sorry. No. No, they didn't come back.
Okay, but do it a different way. Maybe close that screen and then go back to like the regular tabs that you had. If not,
where in California do you live?
I'm in Fountain Valley, which is, I'll show you on the map, halfway between LA and San Diego.
Oh, okay. Because I'm in Los Angeles.
Oh. Hold on.
And I remember your mom. She used to do the costumes as well.
Who am I talking to? I can't see you. Here I am, Fountain Valley. That's where I am, down there.
Well, you got to share your screen again. That would help. But share, instead of sharing a tab, share the whole computer this time. This way, when you see your slideshow, we'll see it.
Okay.
Why can't I do this?
Fountain Valley.
Ah, here we go. Okay. Who was just talking to me?
Maureen Shaw. I used to live in Salisbury.
You know my mom and dad.
Yes, of course. And your mom actually catered for my son's bar mitzvah.
She did.
She did.
Of course she did. She catered for everybody's. Oh, wow. That's fantastic. The Rabbi,
Yes.
what do you want me to do? Share what?
So share your whole screen this time. Instead of selecting one program, one of the options should be the whole screen. And then when you go back to your browser, we'll see it. Is that one of the options when you click the green button?
I've either got full screen or the one with the thumbnails.
So you could do the one with the thumbnails. If you click on that. Okay, perfect. Now just go scroll on the left to slide 11. So don't hit the present button. This time on the left side, just use your cursor to bring it down. I see 1 through 8.
It didn't come out. Didn't come out.
Oh, it's not there either?
Nope.
No. Go back to the screen that you have number 2 in. Do you see number 2? Yeah, just click on number. There you go. Click on number 8.
I can't see the numbers.
Well, just click on the bottom one.
Hold on. Okay. Number 8.
Do you see it on the screen?
No.
What do you see on your screen? If not, we'll
I see full screen of.
Yeah, we don't want to see the full screen one. Close that window.
No, just do escape.
Escape. That's what I need. You're right. I forgot about escape. Okay, got it.
All right. Now, what do you see on your screen?
I see slide number 5 with the thumb.
Okay, perfect. So now scroll down within this window on the left. Scroll down to number 10.
Number?
Or 11, actually.
11.
Yeah, and we'll see your screen the way you see it.
Ah, okay.
So now click on 11, and you can talk about those.
Okay, so this was, there were lots of fads. The fads changed over the years of the wedding cakes. And, they went from those, like that first cake I showed you with the plastic pillars, and then they went into satellite cakes where all the cakes were separated on different heights of stands. So this was another fad. This was the Mad Hatter Tea Party cake, and so many people wanted this one. Pardon?
No, keep going. Someone's giving feedback by mistake.
So anyway, I did a lot of these Mad Hatter. They were fun to do, all different colors, and I loved doing cakes with no rules. And I put this cake in because I used to have kind of run-ins with florists and lighting people. This cake was pretty good, but there was this one cake I remember in particular where the florist had put 5. Can you see these votives down at the bottom on the table?
Yeah.
They had put 5 rows of votives all around the cake, and the heat that emanated from those candles was like a furnace. So I said to him, you have to take them away. And he says, well, you're spoiling my design. And there were a lot of egos, don't forget, involved in all of this stuff. And I said, well, yes, I'm spoiling your design, but you're going to melt my cake. So I win. So get rid of them. And I also used to have run-ins with lighting people, because lighting is so important at weddings. It's everything. And we'd have this lovely, moody, atmospheric light, and then they'd shine a bright white spotlight on the cake, and it would look like a ghost in the room. So I was always telling them to, change the filters and put a light, but, anyway. I was a perfectionist when it came to the cakes. I probably drove everybody up the wall. And this one was just one of my favorites because I loved simple elegance. And I did a number of cakes that went into jewelry stores in South Coast Plaza, which is one of our malls over here. And this one went into Christophe, which is the French China and Crystal store. So this was also one of my favorites. And was this the other one? This was the other one. Okay, this is the cake that I think I mentioned this. I didn't think I was going to make this wedding because the fondant here, see these stripes? they were so difficult to do because when you roll fondant and you pick it up, it stretches. And it was very, very hard to put the soft medium on the cake and have them straight and horizontal. Anyway, I actually didn't think I was going to make that wedding because I spent so much time fussing with these horizontal lines. And this is my signature cake. This is my rose cake that I just love. I did it and I did many different versions of it, but this was my signature cake. It was done in white chocolate. I also did it in chocolate. And this is the cake that I used for all my advertising. And this little lovely was for a Valentine wedding. And I had a lot of, there was another period where all the brides loved bling and shiny crystal stuff on their cakes. So I used a lot of Swarovski crystals on the gum paste. And I always had to tell the cake, the staff at the hotel or the restaurant or wherever the wedding was, that they had to make sure they removed all this non-edible stuff for the cake because we didn't want to get sued. And I wasn't. It was fine. So that's it. Yeah.
This was, first of all, it's amazing art, and that you've continued and channeled your art in different places. I think you should go back to the mezuzahs. I know that you said you stopped doing the silver, but those are one of a kind.
Yeah.
Oh, look, your brother's showing one of them in his screen. He's got one of the I call it Tree of Life. Is that what you call it?
These two?
Yeah.
Who's showing it?
Your brother, Mark.
Oh, Mark, yes. I did one of these for him. I did.
Yeah, he's holding it.
Why can't I see? Why can't I see? I want to see.
Because you're sharing your screen, so you'll have to scroll through the videos. I can highlight him if you want me to stop your sharing.
Sure.
Okay, hold on.
Can I find him? Where is he?
I'll do it. Now do you see him?
Yes.
Now you can show it, Mark.
Show me, Mark. Oh, cool.
Well, Mark, we want it on your doorpost. You're muted if you wanted to.
Thanks, Lovey.
And at the back, you can see, I don't know if you can see.
No, maybe pull it a little bit further away from the camera.
Back a bit, it's out of focus.
Yeah, there you go.
It says Love Lynn.
Oh, I see on the top part.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
So if anyone has any questions for Linda, whether it's about her upbringing in Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe, or about the art, the cakes, now is a great time. I see a number of unmuted mics. Lee and Linda French, did you have a question? Or
Nope.
Linda? Okay. Anyone have any questions, just speak up. I know that in one of the chat questions, the question was, are any of your cakes maybe on display, like a styrofoam cake type of design?
Yes, all the cakes that were done for Tiffany's, where are they? The Tiffany cakes were all dummies because they had to be, they were done on styrofoam because they were sitting in the windows for 2 weeks under hot lights. So yes, did a lot of
So
dummies.
those are still, they still have them, or they get rid of them?
Oh no, I had 21 dummy cakes in my store on display for people to look at when they came in. And when I closed the shop, I tossed them all in the trash.
Sarge, you had a question.
Linda?
Yeah,
you
go
hear
for
me?
it. Yeah, we hear you.
Linda,
Yes.
I had the privilege of seeing and tasting your sewing machine cake.
Oh, you did?
Total, complete awe.
Oh, thank you.
Incredible.
Oh, that was a fabulous cake.
I have a story to tell. This is Shuki from Boston. I had the privilege of being Linda's friend for the past 42 years. And she actually had done my daughter's wedding cake 16 years ago. And I remember we were wondering, how are we going to do this? So Linda made her, what do we call it? The demi cake or dummy cake? I mean, from styrofoam. She shipped it to Boston and brought the real cake with her, you know, in the plane. I mean, this is devotion and love that only Linda can give to any friend. When she arrived here, she had installed the cake at the wedding at the hotel. And it was a cake that everyone talked about for a long time. They didn't talk about how my dress looked, but they talked about the cake that Linda had made. And she well deserved all the compliment that she received because it was incredible. So Linda,
Yes.
thank you so much. I mean, I think this thing is unbelievable. I've known you for so many years and I've seen a lot of your cake, but you never cease to amaze me. And what I've seen today is a drop of my everything. I mean, it's
Thank you, lovey.
incredible, incredible.
Linda?
Yes, lovey.
Zelda, I don't know what happened with my face or whatever.
Yes.
But anyway, I am so impressed with your amazing artistic talent, not only with the cakes that have always been so delicious, but the displays you did for the schools, and also I'll never forget it for Michael's bar mitzvah.
Oh,
And yes, and all the murals and the Judaica items. And I got for you one of the mezuzahs that you showed. Unfortunately, I haven't hung it up because I'm waiting for the Judaica store near my area to open so I can buy the prayer.
oh.
And and I also want to mention, Linda made my older son's cake. My son Steve, and Tali's and Michael's wedding. And I still remember all the comments that people made. And I was sitting actually close to Michael and Talib's cake. And both weddings, people were saying not only were they so delicious, but they're too beautiful to cut. And they're always so delicious. So I'm so proud of you to watch your progress through the years, and kol hakavod to you.
Thank you, lovey. Thank you very much.
And sorry that you can't see Zelda's screen, but that is her sister-in-law. So just sharing with everyone on. Did someone else have anything to ask or question? Pinky, I see your mic is unmuted.
Yes, because I just want to tell my friend that she is just awesome. So awesome. I'm so verklempt, Linny. I'm busy crying.
Thank you.
It's all so beautiful. And just to let you all know, go way to Anthem to make Brownie and Michelle's wedding. So thank you, sweetheart.
When I delivered Brian's cake to Phoenix, it was a 6-hour drive, and I didn't have a refrigerated van. So even though I had the air conditioning going the whole time, I had my neighbor built a cage, like a wooden cage for me. And I went out and bought dry ice and put it on top of the cage for the delivery. And when we got to Phoenix, the cake was almost frozen. So thank God the wedding was the next day, so we had time for it to defrost. Yeah.
And Linda, sorry to interrupt. This is Michelle, actually, for our cake. That was our cake.
I can't see you. I don't know why I can't see you, but where are you?
That's okay. I wasn't on video before. I just added. But if you remember correctly, too, the cake was so delicious that most of the golf club staff took it. We didn't even get that much left over to take home.
I didn't know that. I did not know that.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Not everybody got a piece, and they said it was all gone, but it's because they took it because it was so delicious.
Horrors.
So, thank you.
Well, now we find out.
Yes. This is Mary, and I have just enjoyed this so much, thinking about all those Monday mornings and you'd get in the car.
I must tell everybody, Mary is my neighbor that I have walked and exercised with probably for the last 35 years. And she's been here forever and she's wonderful. I did do her daughter's wedding cake as well.
And it was wonderful. Wonderful.
Thanks. But yeah, I used to listen to my stories every Monday, that's for sure.
Good, bad, and indifferent.
Yes.
Stories.
Yeah.
This has been a lot of fun.
It's been a great ride. It's been a great ride. I was very lucky because according to all the rules of how one runs a business, I should never have ever succeeded. And I worked from home for 10 years and I knew I couldn't get a license from the health department in the city. So after my husband died, I knew I'd have to go into commercial premises to keep going because I had to put my 2 kids through college. So it's been an amazing ride, really. Somebody upstairs was watching me because really I didn't go through any of the rules. I didn't know the rules about how to run a business. I was just very lucky.
Linda, may I talk?
Yeah, go for it.
I don't remember what museum it was, even what state or country it was, but I saw an exhibit on the cake art that you did. And there were, you know, wedding gowns and beautiful pocketbooks, fabulous hats, all kinds of things. And yours are just phenomenal as well. And I'm wondering if yours have ever been displayed in a museum.
Not in, okay, there somewhere up in LA, there was a cake museum. I don't think it's in existence anymore. I did send them 4 of the cakes, but it was in a lady who was a cake decorator and it was in her house, but not in any other museums, no.
Well, they should be.
Oh, well, thank you.
They really should be. And also, what was if you don't mind my asking, what was the price of the most expensive cake?
It was about $10,500.
I'm sorry?
$10,500. And you know what? There were some weddings, I promise you, I used to go to the wedding and I'd walk into the room and see all the decor and how much they'd spent on everything, lighting and bands and floors and whatever. And I used to think, oh my gosh, I should have charged double. My cake was always the cheapest thing at the wedding. I'm not kidding.
And actually, I couldn't hear the price. I wasn't in shock. I just couldn't hear.
Oh, okay. 10,500.
Oh, okay.
And there's one other story. There's one other story that I was called to ask. I was asked to do Michael Jackson's 40th birthday cake. Excuse me, I wasn't asked to do it. I was asked to give a quote, and it came in from his #1 fan club apparently. And I charged, I think I quoted them 15,000, if I remember correctly, thinking, oh, they'll never pay that kind of money. And the woman actually called me back and she said, well, we're kind of worried about the quality. And if your quote is so low, then we're kind of, no, we're not going to use it. I'm not kidding. And I also turned down going on Oprah. Which I completely forgot about until now. I used to do 4 wedding cakes a week, and I worked alone with a part-time helper. And the thing with Oprah is that they would they called me on a Tuesday, wanted me to be on a plane on Thursday. Oh, no, wanted me to be on a plane on Wednesday to film the show on Thursday and go with a replica of the Eiffel Tower cake, which took me a week to do. And I thought, I can't do that. I've got 4 weddings this weekend. So I said, thank you, but no, thank you. And everybody thought I was crazy. But there was another woman on the show who was giving a class here in California, because I knew about that class. And it was a week-long class, and all the students had bought their supplies and equipment and paid the fee. And she canceled them all, and she went to the show on Oprah, and she was on for 30 seconds. And I thought that was horrendous. So that was my Oprah story. Yeah.
Linda, hear us? Okay,
Yes.
so
Yes.
I'm
Oh,
from,
Alan Joe, I can hear you, but I can't see you. Where are you?
we can see us.
Okay. Oh, there's David. Hi, David. I didn't see you before. Oh, there you are. Hi, guys. Everybody, this is Joe and Alan also from Zimbabwe. Alan used to live down the street from me, and he's basically like a brother. And they now live in Seattle. How are you doing, guys?
We great, thank you. Alan was the recipient of one of your beautiful cakes for his 50th.
Oh, right. Yes.
But the taste was phenomenal, and you actually all the time and to ship it and arrived perfectly. And we also was
your
cake that you delivered for her.
Can't hear.
Linda?
Yes, Lovey.
Weren't your pictures displayed in a magazine in England?
Yes, Blair Underwood's wedding was in Hello magazine in England, and that's when I started subscribing to it.
And now it's time for you to make your book.
The famous book that I still haven't done.
With your brother, we've been hacking you to make this book. It's time. See, look, he's even doing this.
Yes,
Come on.
I know. And Bella too. See Bella in London? She's been saying the same thing. Yep.
Now.
Then, can I say something?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So I want to just relate to that comment you made about being self-taught. And I want to pay tribute to your mother Babs and to the Wheatso ladies of Salisbury and later Harare. The ladies who used to do all the catering for the community. Yeah. Unbelievable contribution to all the events at the community. And I'm sure you must have picked up some of their skills.
Oh, sure. I mean, they didn't do cakes like that.
Right, not cakes.
But I mean, food has been ingrained in my DNA.
Sure.
No question about it.
And also the theater side, the whole creativity of the theater. I think that kind of like just got embedded in your DNA. Yep. And I think that's where you kind of got a lot of those inspirations came from that world.
For sure, for sure.
I'm very proud of you, Lynn.
My career is proof that one never knows what's coming around the corner. You just never.
Very proud of you, Lynn.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you so much. Everybody, Dave is my cousin, also from Zimbabwe.
Can I add something to that?
Yes. That's
Dave, I've watched Linda making cakes, and I used to watch Mum when she was doing her dressmaking and her costumes. And I remember saying to myself, the way she makes a cake and the way Mum made dresses and the way I go about woodwork, exactly the same. Just somehow, as Linda's making a cake, I can watch it and say, oh, I know what needs to come next, and I know what you need to do next, and later. And yeah, you're right, DNA.
Yeah.
Nice.
It served me well. It has. So, this has been fun, everybody. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. If there's any last questions, I know that one of the questions in the chat, well, what was the typical range for a cake? I know you said
range. Well, it actually differed because it depended on the size of the cake. If you were doing a wedding for 50 and one for 300, obviously it would be totally different. So I would charge per serving. And when I first started, it was about $2.50 a serving. And then I eventually went up to about $20 a serving, which when you think about it is outrageous for a little piece of cake. But you know what? It was all about the art and the time involved. It wasn't the, I used to say to people, you're not paying me for the ingredients, which is eggs, flour, butter, sugar. You're paying me for the time it makes to make it look like that. And a lot of people don't understand how much time art takes. And charging was always difficult. I remember having a discussion with a photographer. He was a very well-known photographer. And we were sitting at a wedding and we looked at each other one day and we started laughing and we both said, we can't afford our own services. But, that's that's what it was about. It was about the art and the taste, because I'm not a sweet tooth on any level. I don't eat cake, and I do not have a chocolate gene. My kids think I'm defective, I think, because I don't like chocolate. But, you know, it was about the art. And also I was very particular about the flavor, because I didn't want it to taste like sweet cardboard. It had to have flavor.
Right, and that's something that Pinky had mentioned when I first met you, that I thought, they look beautiful, but they taste horrendous. And she's like, no, not your cakes. They taste delicious.
They were good. They were good. No.
Linda,
Yes,
Linda,
this is, there's my
behind me is your beautiful painting.
Oh, thanks, Belle.
Yeah, camera show you mine.
Which we absolutely love. And I think of you every time I look at it.
Oh, cool. Thank you, Belle. That's wonderful.
Well done. Well done.
So again, I'm going to just say thank you. And for those of you who are around the world, we do this 3 times a week. You're always welcome to join. It won't be Linda on Wednesday, but regardless of where you're living, you're welcome to join. There's always an interesting topic or discussion or an opportunity to socialize. So thank you very much, Linda. For those of you who want to stay on and socialize, I'm going to stay on. For those of you who have to go back to bed, like David in Israel, or Mark, who said he starts his day already. So it was very nice meeting all of your friends and family. That was really nice.
Thank
Everyone
you.
showed
I'm thrilled
up
to see everybody.
Laila tov.